How's it going, people? In the past, the 400 brake horsepower club tended to be made up of supercars, with cars like the Ferrari F40, which is one of the icons of its day, putting out 478 brake horsepower, for example. However, nowadays, that 400 brake horsepower mark is pretty easy to come by in much cheaper cars. In this video, I'm going to talk you through the top 5 cars you can buy for less than £10,000 that produce upwards of 400 brake horsepower. So as to reduce any discrepancies, I'm not including cars that could easily be modded or mapped to do 400 brake horsepower plus in this video, as that widens the list almost infinitely. I'm pretty sure you could crowbar a 400 brake horsepower engine into my Polo for less than 10 grand, so that wouldn't be helpful for this list. Cars that narrowly miss out on the cut because of this rule are therefore buttes like the E39 M5, which puts out 394 brake horsepower and goes for under 10k, as well as the beastly first generation Range Rover Sport, whose 4.2 litre V8 puts out 385 brake horsepower. Obviously, with the right mapping and a couple of cheap mods to these cars, they would do more than 400 brake horsepower easily, but that's not the point. This list is about cars that are under 10 grand and come from the factory with 400 horses. Another car that narrowly misses this list but is worth a mention as well, as it may depreciate further, is the E60 M5, which goes for as low as £12,000 but produces a whopping 500 brake horsepower from its 5 litre V10 and a 0 to 60 of 4.2 seconds, which would send it right to the top of this list. Anyway, in this video I'll give you the stats of each of the cars alongside some interesting facts and information, and you can let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my picks. To reduce bias, I've put these cars in order of 0 to 60, because ultimately what's the point of having 400 brake horsepower if it doesn't take you places quickly? Also, don't forget that I'm looking at it from the UK market perspective, so prices around the world may differ. Remember to like and subscribe for more car content like this, but without further ado, let's get into the video. Starting us off at number 5, we have the 2006 to 2009 Lexus LS 600H. This huge Japanese luxury car puts out a massive 439 brake horsepower from its 5 litre V8 hybrid engine, and puts that power to the road with its all-wheel drive system. I know 0 to 60 doesn't matter so much in luxury cars, but 6.2 seconds makes this the slowest car on the list, though that kinda makes sense considering it literally looks like it's the size of a small boat. It even comes in a long wheelbase option, extending its length by almost 5 inches. It's actually quite a historic car in some aspects. It was the first V8 powered full hybrid production vehicle, and was also the most expensive Japanese luxury car ever produced when it was released in 2006. Interesting then that the depreciation has taken its value right down to under £10,000, which is particularly strange when you consider the fact that there aren't many left on the road today in the UK. This can make finding one for under £10,000 quite difficult though, and many have quite high mileage. Supposedly, these high mileage figures relate to the fact that the car is regarded as excessively reliable. While searching for some common problems, all I came across were forums full of people asking if there are any problems, and a bunch of other people messaging back like 100,000 plus miles and no problems yet. If that really is the case, and they're not just super biased Lexus owners, which isn't impossible, then well played Lexus for putting out such a reliable car, especially when the smaller engine models do theoretically have more problems. The only consistent issues I could find were problems with the seats becoming increasingly uncomfortable over time, and bushes needing replacing. It's also theoretically the most economically friendly in terms of petrol, considering it's advertised at averaging 30.4 miles per gallon between city and motorway driving, but as per usual, reviews negate those figures. However, it is an insurance group 50, which is the highest insurance group possible in the UK, so don't expect cheap premiums. All in all, quite a sedate car to start us off, but it's over 400 brake horsepower and it's under £10,000, so well worth a place on this list. Coming in at number 4, we have the Jaguar XKR that was produced between 2003 and 2006. This car is the cheapest on the list, with high mileage models going for under 7 grand, though you can actually get XKRs all the way up to £30,000 for a couple of very low mileage models. For £10,000 you could have an XKR from 2004 with just under 100,000 miles on the clock, and though you may be thinking that it might not be the best idea given the notoriously bad reliability of Jags, automotive journalists and owners of the car have generally been positive about the 4.2 litre supercharged V8 that powers the XKR, suggesting that it holds up pretty well regardless of the extra miles. That V8 puts out 400 brake horsepower on the dot, making this the least most powerful car on the list, though it does do 0 to 60 in just 5.4 seconds, which is not bad at all for a pretty sizable car you'd expect a wealthy granddad to be driving. Jeremy Clarkson actually said in a review on Top Gear that sitting in the XKR is akin to sitting inside Blenheim Palace, which is a country house in Oxford here in the UK for those international viewers out there. The XKR was originally designed to look more like a modern version of the E-Type Jag, and you can certainly see the similarities, even if the E-Type is a million times cooler in my opinion. The V8 Jag also had a successful career in racing, as in 2002 it won the 24 Hours of Daytona in the GTS class, beating other cars like the Dodge Viper, Saleen S7 and the Porsche GT1. It also won the Trans Am Series in 2005, and the car won 6 of the 9 events that season across all the drivers. That's pretty dominant, even if the Trans Am car only looks loosely like the road car, given its massive carbon fibre body. To be fair, it can't look too much different to the one that appeared in Die Another Day, with the huge mounted machine gun at the back. If the XKR does go wrong, owners have suggested that the price of repairs at the Jaguar dealership can be pretty hefty, so maybe stay clear of taking it back to Jag and support your local mechanic in that situation. Some have noted superchargers failing, while others suggest it's generally just sensors that go wrong. Either way, in terms of other costs attached to the car, reviews suggest the car does about 18 to 22 miles per gallon, and it's an insurance group 39, which is the lowest on this list and not bad for 400 brake horsepower. Speaking of the XKR though, if you're into modded cars, there's a dude I follow on Insta called Jaguar XKR. I don't actually know the guy, but his XKR is pretty insane if you're into that kind of thing. I'll link his Insta in the description. Anyway, a beast of a car for the money and a deserved 4th place on this list. For the first time on this channel we have an American car, the Chrysler 300C SRT8, produced between 2006 and 2010. I've taken some flack recently for not including American cars, and though I'm not personally a massive fan of the rear-wheel drive 300C, this monster has some pretty unreal specs for the price. 425 brake horsepower from its 6.1 litre V8, the largest engine on this list, which takes it from 0 to 60 in just 4.9 seconds. That's not bad for a muscle car in the UK. These are valued today between £8,500 and £16,000, though the likelihood you'll come across one at all is very minimal, as there are only 158 of them left on the roads here in the UK altogether, so when one comes on sale it's time to snap it up quickly if you're after one. It's for this reason that in the time I was putting the clips together for this video, the one I had planned to record sold for just under £10,000, so I'm having to make do with this one that's a little bit over our budget for your reference. For your 10 grand you should be able to get an SRT8 with less than 70,000 miles on it, which is good mileage considering the specs you're getting. The 300C was originally designed as a modern interpretation of the C300, which was produced in the US every year between 1955 and 1965, and again in 1970. You can see the similarities in terms of the large grille, long bonnet, and low roofline for sure. That said, I reckon the C300 is a lot better looking than the 300C, but again that's just my personal opinion. You can also see the similarities between the 300C and the 1998 Chrysler Kronos concept car, which looks like a more curved version of the 300C. The two cars share the same chrome accents, as well as tortoise shell finishing from the steering wheel and shifter knob. The 300C also shares a lot of parts with the W211 Mercedes-Benz E-Class, as many components from the Merc were used in the production of the 300C. For those of you that aren't aware, the SRT stands for Street and Racing Technology, while the 8 stands for the number of cylinders the car has. This is consistent with the Dodge Viper SRT10, which has an 8.3 litre V10 engine. While the standard 300C has an absolutely diabolical reliability rating, the SRT8 is generally regarded as having a much stronger engine, and much better overall reliability. People have noted transmission issues from the automatic box, though these tend to be the fault of a sensor, and an easy fix. I'm a little dubious about this though, as the list of issues that afflict the standard 300C seems to be endless. While it's probably quite expensive to run given its 19 miles per gallon average and insurance group 46 status, it is a beast of a car for sure, and it's nice to get an American car on the list that we can actually afford here in the UK. Super powerful and super bold, the Chrysler 300C SRT8. Taking a solid second place, we have the second generation Mercedes-Benz CL55 AMG that was produced between 2003 and 2006. This rear-wheel drive Merc boasts a supercharged 5.4 litre V8 that does 0 to 60 in just 4.8 seconds and produces a massive 493 brake horsepower, the most powerful car on this list, with more power than even the F40 I mentioned in the intro. They are few and far between, with only 131 left in the UK, but you can still pick one up for less than £10,000 when they come on the market. At the time of making this video, one is available for £6,250 and another is going for just under 9 grand, both of which are pretty sick looking cars, it must be said. I think one of the coolest features of this car is its pillarless side windows. It just looks so slick and is a throwback to the older Benzes. You'll have to be prepared for some potentially poor reliability too when buying one, as the 3 most common problems are the active body control system leaking hydraulic fluid, and just for your reference, ABC is basically just active suspension, the door control module often fails, and the crankshaft position sensor can go, causing the car to constantly stall or just not start at all. Unless you're ridiculously lucky, you won't be able to get a hold of a low mileage example for less than our £10,000 budget, so you may need to be well prepared to roll up your sleeves and do some DIY, or spend some money to get someone to do it for you. The 2000 to 2002 CL55 AMG is also available, but it differs from the 2003 to 2006 model as it did not have a supercharger, thus it did not have over 400 brake horsepower. You could theoretically also buy the CL600, which is a twin-turbo V12, but this isn't an AMG model despite it being possible to spec one to basic AMG standards when the car was released. The V12 CL600 is also made to be a lot less loud than the CL55. In fact, Mercedes didn't really want the CL600 to distract from the CL55 AMG, so they said that the two cars basically had the same specs, which is not the case. The CL600 has been shown to be much faster and much more powerful. The CL55 AMG may not be the best shout to live with for the longer term unless you have deep pockets, as it is also in the maximum insurance group and has awful fuel economy, with an average of 16.4 miles per gallon. That said, you do get an unreal looking car with good presence and great sound, plus a supercharged V8. I'm definitely a fan of the CL55, and considering its insane power output, it more than deserves second place on this list. Finally, at number 1 this week, we actually have 4 versions of 2 different cars. The Audi RS6 C5 as both a saloon and Avant, and the Audi S6 C6 saloon and Avant. The latter Quattro has a 5.2 litre V10 from the same family as a Lamborghini Gallardo, just tuned differently to provide greater torque. It puts out 429 brake horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds, which isn't that quick when you compare it to some of the former cars on this list. It's getting smashed by the 300C for example in a straight line. However, the RS6 is a twin-turbo 4.2 litre V8 that puts out 444 brake horsepower, taking it from 0 to 60 in just 4.5 seconds, giving it first on the list by 0.3 of a second over the CL55. You can get an S6 saloon for around 7.5 grand and an Avant for around 9 grand, but if you're looking to get one for 10k, you'll get a saloon with less than 85,000 miles on the clock or an Avant with over 100,000 miles. Comparatively, you'll get the RS6 saloon for around 9k and the Avant for about 7, but you're looking at slightly higher miles for both still if you want to spend £10,000, as you can find an Avant with just under 100k miles and a saloon with well over. In terms of owning one of these beasts for the longer term, they might be a bit of a strain on the wallet, as the RS6 does around 90 miles per gallon, is between insurance groups 41 and 46, and has numerous common problems including the cam belt wearing, automatic gearbox failing, and intercoolers leaking, which leads to a loss of boost. These issues are notoriously expensive on the RS6, and it's a similar story with the slightly more reliable S6, where if anything does go wrong, it will almost definitely cost you a fair amount. The S6 sits in insurance groups 42 to 43 and does a slightly better 21 miles per gallon, but don't let this fool you, as owners of the car suggest it costs a fortune to keep it on the roads as petrol costs and basic maintenance costs are super high. To be fair though, for under £10,000 what you get with these two Quattros is phenomenal. The RS6 is the first in the line of legendary cars that dominate social media, and when you consider the fact that these are practically family cars, with the Avant having an extra 30 litres of boot space over the saloon, you realise just why these cars are so iconic. The RS6 also has a Plus model, similar to the R8s of today, which has a Cosworth built engine, though your 10 grand won't stretch quite that far. This Cosworth engine is similar to that was used in the RS6 that entered the North American Speed World Challenge GT series, in which it won every constructor's title between 2002 and 2005 before pulling out. A nicely spec'd model may also have some pretty sick interior features for your enjoyment, such as the Recaro RS seats and Bose speakers. Not bad for a car you can do the school run in. The S6 has similar great interior specs and is somewhat newer as it was in the generation after the RS6. That said, it is often suggested that you can actually get a similar amount of performance out of the V6 A6, which has slightly better fuel economy. But if you put a V6 and a V10 in front of me and told me to choose, I know which one I'm driving away. Either way, these two beasts may not have the best reliability with their mileage, but you can get them for less than £10,000, and they put out some serious power. A well-deserved victory for the RS6, which drags the S6 along with it. So to recap, I've given you my take on the top 5 cars that you can buy for under £10,000 that have 400 brake horsepower or more. Obviously, normally when I do my outros to these videos, it's just a video of me driving my Polo around, but I thought because of the insane amount of growth that we've had recently on the channel, thought I'd give a bit more of a personal thank you. So thank you very much for all the support, all the great comments, and all the great discussions I've had with people, and all the great ideas people have given me and that kind of stuff. Honestly, it's ridiculous. It's been so cool to see how many people have been involved. And also like the negative feedback as well, like anything that's been constructive and stuff, I've really taken that on board. Hopefully you've seen in this video that I've tried to include a lot of the suggestions that you guys have had, such as including an American car in there, as well as including names of the cars on screen and that kind of stuff. If you'd like to stay more in touch with the channel, go follow me on Instagram at carswithjb. Anyway, as per usual, remember to like, subscribe, all that great stuff. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Listen.